You know Gray Bar for electrical parts, but there's one more thing you may not be thinking of us for that can help maximize your next project's total value. Our pre-project planning services are designed to help you win the bid, save on labor costs, and keep your installers productive across your entire build. The sooner you call us, the better. Because when we're there from the beginning, we can anticipate your needs and help you solve problems before they become problems. Yep, Gray Bar does that.
A new week of the Show Before the Show podcast from MILB.com. Hi, hello there. How you doing? Sam Dykstra.
Oh, are you talking directly to me? Oh, okay.
Directly to you.
You could have been addressing
first it was sort of like a universal, like, to the listener. But then it was to you.
Yeah, well,
and everybody needs... That pivoted in my brain.
Yeah, everybody needs somebody to talk to, so I thought we were just giving space for them to respond and have like a legit chat between the two of you, and I was going to leave it out. There's nothing wrong with silence and allowing others to fill the silence, but yes, I am here now too. How are you, Tyler?
We're all existing in a vacuum of weirdness, but healthy and doing okay, and hopeful that we'll have baseball sometime soon, and it's going to be June next week, and that's generally very exciting. It's a little weird right now, but hanging in.
Yeah, I mean, June is a big month on the calendar usually anyways, because we have the draft coming up and there's usually so many things going on in minor league baseball in June. Short season usually opens up around then. Obviously not looking like the case right now, but it seems like June is going to be a big date at which we decide whether baseball is going to come back and what it's going to look like and all that. So this will not be any normal June, that's for sure.
That is the truth, but hopefully it'll be a productive one and a good one for all of us and all of you. And with that, we welcome you into this week's episode of the Show Before the Show from MILB.com. He is Sam Dykstra. I am Tyler Maughan, and we're hanging out this week with a trio of really good interviews. We got a great conversation coming up here in our next segment. Josiah Gray, who's the third-ranked prospect in the Los Angeles Dodgers organization, and baseball's number 67 overall. We had a lengthy conversation with Josiah that covered pretty much everything that we could possibly cover with him, and just the latest in what I feel like have been exclusively terrific interviews. Like, we're all in a difficult spot. These players are all in difficult spots with no baseball right now and all of it. But I feel like the interviews that we've done since the quarantine started have all been so good, and Josiah Gray may be the best among them, although I feel like I say that every week with another interview that's great. But if you're a Dodgers fan or just a baseball fan at all, he's a really fun prospect to keep an eye on, and a really engaging and really good dude to have talked to on the show today. And got some other stuff coming up. Benjamin Hill will join us. Andrew Battifarano will join us a little while later. And other than that, I don't believe there is anything to cover in this segment.
Well, I mean, we'll literally just use this as the introductory segment. That is okay. The good thing about this, and if you were expecting this to go long this week and you probably looked at the runtime and wondered, oh, this is long, but the intro seems short, it's because Josiah Gray goes really long in his answers and goes really deep in his answers. And as Tyler mentioned, normally during the season around now, we know the time we have with players is finite. They're either trying to enjoy some downtime away from the ballpark, or they're on their way to the ballpark and they only have so many minutes to talk to us. All of us right now are kind of sitting around waiting for baseball, and that allows us to get into deeper topics, but it also allows them to answer more fully. And Josiah Gray was such a perfect example of that. Taking our questions and going deeper with them and providing lots of context, which, we love as writers in our day job. But I think it's great for people at home to hear, not just fans, but future fans. And obviously, the whole point of this show is for you guys to get to know these guys before they get under the bright lights of the major leagues. But to know him the way you will after this interview, I think it's special for all of us. And it's a reason why we go along with this, because we have the time now, they have the time, and we want to give you guys as much information about these guys as we can before they reach the show.
Totally agree. And you're a better man than I in that you did not take the bait to trash talk me about the fact that you won one of our stream games.
I mean, videos don't lie. Videos are on the internet forever. So I don't even need to say anything. YouTube is doing the talking for me.
Okay. I see.
Wins one game, all of a sudden is just immensely confident.
Also, I liked how at MILB tweeted out yesterday that this is now a series. When they posted the stream, or on Monday, I guess, when they posted the stream link, we're recording this on Wednesday, the 27th of May, it was series, Tyler leads 2-0. This wasn't a series before. Now you get your first win. Now it's a series? Is that what we're saying?
I told you last week this has always been a best of 5. You are currently leading 2-1. That's great for you. But when you blow it, it's just going to look horrendously awful for you.
I don't like your guff. Sam. Take that. Yeah, Sam got a win. We did American League versus National League squads. The stream is up at MILB.com/podcast. It will also be up on Facebook coming up on Friday afternoon if you missed it. And every once in a while, all great dynasties fall eventually. Every blind squirrel finds a nut. You're the blind squirrel. I was the dynasty.
Well, I was going to say, yeah, you had a dynasty, but like Rome, you were built in a day and then you fell in 2. Like what? You didn't even get multiple eras.
Rome wasn't built in a day. That's the whole phrase, Sam.
No. You were built in a day and you were destroyed in 2. I'm sorry.
I don't know what that means. But we've got some other stuff going on the site, some really good stories that are up, historical pieces, road to the show pieces, all kinds of things. Benjamin Hill will be on a little while later to talk about his latest league fun facts and all of that. We also have some news which is not on the site. It's news that just came out yesterday, but it's I don't even want to say so often. Every day, all of us, I think, to a certain degree, have to look to find things to smile about and to be positive about and to feel good about. And there's some really good news that came out of the minor league family this week, which is that since late March, since I believe March 27th, Oakland Athletics minor league coach Webster Garrison has been hospitalized with COVID-19. And for 22 days of that time was on a ventilator. His fiancée, Nikki Trudeau, has been posting updates on social media over the last several weeks, and she posted last night, after posting a couple of weeks ago that he had been taken off the ventilator, she posted last night that he was moved to a rehab facility, and that is just incredible news. Webster Garrison, by all accounts, is just one of the most beloved guys, not only in the A's system, but for anybody who has come through his pathway in baseball. Was a short-time big leaguer with the A's, but has managed and coached at various different levels as a manager in Class A Advanced Stockton and recent seasons, and has been in the AZL and at other levels throughout the organization, but moved into a rehab facility. That is so incredible. Obviously, there's so much unknown as to what coronavirus and COVID-19 mean long-term for people, but to even take the step to come off of the ventilator and then to move into a rehab situation is such an incredible leap forward. And obviously, we're cheering hard for Webster Garrison and for his family, and that was just an incredible buoying piece of news to have gotten last night and this morning.
Yeah, and I'm very grateful to Nikki for consistently providing updates on everybody and always adding hashtag Webby Strong. This is a scary time for so many people. And like you said, Tyler, any bits of light that we can get are great, and we have to hold them close. So Webster Garrison getting closer, to a recovery and making it to rehab, and just being with Nikki and getting to be close to one another again. I think she mentioned in another tweet she hadn't seen him physically since March because, as we know about COVID-19, is that when you are recovering in a hospital, it's very limited of who can come in to see you and if anybody can come in to see you to make sure we don't spread the virus. So them getting to be together was one very positive step, and now going into rehab today and making another big step towards a recovery is huge. And we're always thinking about Webster Garrison and everybody out there. I mean, obviously this disease or this virus has touched so many people, both in the United States and around the world. If it's affected you, we're thinking about everybody who it's affecting. And when it touches home with a minor league family like this with Webster Garrison, we think about them every day. So we hope you're at home safe and continuing to do all the right things and listening to experts out there. But as people get back on their own roads to recovery, we're going to celebrate them and be grateful that we have them and that they're getting back to full health.
And with that, we're going to dive into this week's episode of the Show Before the Show from MILB.com with the third-ranked prospect from the Los Angeles Dodgers organization. Pitcher Josiah Gray joins the show next.
As an official partner of minor league baseball, Nationwide is here from life's first pitch to the seventh inning stretch. Whether you're looking for protection for your house, car, pet, or small business, Nationwide offers a wide range of products and support to make sure you're getting the right coverage for your specific needs. Visit nationwide.com for more information on how we can help take care of what you have today and plan for what's ahead. Nationwide is on your side. Nationwide Mutual Insurance Company, Columbus, Ohio.
Well, we are headed back to a Cactus League destination this week, although not exactly the Cactus League, but that's where we find the 67th overall prospect in baseball, number 3 in the Los Angeles Dodgers organization, pitching prospect Josiah Gray, who joins us from Arizona. And welcome to the show, man. How are you? It's a strange time, but what are things like in your world these days?
Yeah, it's a strange time to say the least, but things are pretty much the same. They're honestly the same as if I was in spring training right now. You know, in the morning I'm going to get my work in, throwing a lot, working out, and then the afternoons are really to myself, play some video games, watch some Netflix, and that kind of simple stuff.
Well, we're definitely going to have to get streaming recommendations and such from you before the show is over because we all need them, Lord knows. But let's talk about just kind of like you said, the day-to-day things right now. I mean, it's certainly not what it was back in February and early March when you got to go to Camelback Ranch every day and get your work in there and all of that. But what is a daily routine like for you with doing that work in the morning and, you know, keeping yourself baseball ready?
Yeah, honestly, it just starts around 10 every morning, just going out and throwing, getting the arm loose and throwing bullpens here and there. And then after that, go work out. Me and a couple of buddies found a little local gym that we're going to. And then after that, we kind of just wrap up the day and come back and chill. We're normally back in our rooms by, let's say, 1. So, you know, the days are simple, really similar to spring training.
This, mid-May, late May now, by this point, you probably would have been in Oklahoma City or, who knows, maybe in Los Angeles. And instead, we're all in this halted pattern at this stage. But before all of this, you got a chance to be in spring training and to get, those experiences under your belt. A non-roster guy, you're at Camelback Ranch. You're with a team that's had so much success over the last several seasons, obviously at the big league level. What was that like before everything shut down? When you're going in, day after day and getting a chance to be a part of that, what was spring training like this year?
Yeah, it was definitely an eye-opening experience being around some of those guys like Kershaw, Buehler, Price, to name a few. But yeah, every day was honestly, I would try to pick up something new every day and try to learn from how those guys went about their work and how they kind of made everyone around them better. And being a younger guy, being 22 years old with some of those older guys, it definitely was an experience to where I was like, I'm like really the younger guy here, but I kind of just had to mesh in and make sure I was on the same level with them and continuing to learn and pick up as many pointers and tips as I can while I was there.
And when you are in that spring training, this is your second with the Dodgers. Obviously being in Major League camp is a different atmosphere, but what were you focusing on? What were you trying to do to show not necessarily Major League readiness, but as somebody who got 9 appearances last year at AA, you're trying to round off your Major League or minor league resume even. What was the focus going into this spring for you?
I think just getting to show that whole staff and everyone within the Dodgers organization that I can continue to do what I've been doing and continue to progress with everything that I was doing last year and not to show it was just like a rare year. So just going out there every time I was on the mound, whether it be a bullpen, a live BP, or in a game, just remaining consistent, throwing strikes with all of my pitches. And also kind of the behind-the-scenes stuff, just continuing to learn from everyone because of how many years of experience they've had, how many things they've seen. Just kind of those things to where every day was a day to get better, whether it be on the mound or just something in the clubhouse. The little things always added up for me in my experience in big league camp.
And how is that carried over into your work now? Because it's one thing to show off in front of a lot of coaches, and I'm sure the Dodgers are having conversations with you and making sure you're working on things and maybe giving you a plan. But how did you carry, what you were working into the spring into this pause time where, like you said, now you're going through bullpens, you're going through normal routines in the morning, but there's just no games to show off how far you've grown since last year?
Yeah, there's definitely a sort of edge missing because I'm a guy that thrives off of having a hitter in that box. So that kind of definitely stunts the growth a little bit, but also just kind of stepping on the gas pedal and knowing like whenever we start and whatever the situation around us starting is, I want to make sure I'm ready and I have a sense of urgency to go out there and compete and succeed because I know everyone's getting their work in right now, and this is a really important time because we're going to start and it's going to be really quick. So I just want to be ready for that and know that I put myself in the best position possible to be an asset for the team whenever they need me.
Yeah, and kind of walk us through what a bullpen right now looks for you. How many pitches are you throwing? Or are you going max effort? Are you mixing in breaking balls and changeups? I mean, what exactly do those sessions work like? How often are you doing them in any given week?
Yeah, so the bullpens are going about 2 times a week now. I took a couple weeks off right after the shutdown just because it was kind of a unknown period for us, and it was really tough to find a catcher. But right now I'm firing about 30 to 35 pitches, throwing all pitches, just getting everything within the zone, staying consistent, trying to maximize everything out of it I can, and just remain comfortable on the mound because I know when we start, we're going to kind of be thrown right into the fire. So I want to make sure I'm in a really good position and gotten off the mound a lot, so I'm comfortable whenever I have to face hitters and get guys out.
Josiah, let's talk about your history a little bit because you've got one of the coolest stories of any prospect in baseball right now. Formerly a two-way guy, coming out of high school, not a ton of offers. You go the D2 route, and you're one of those guys at the D2 level who I think, especially by your junior year, there were probably a million D1 coaches in the country thinking, why didn't we offer that guy? You're a shortstop. I know early on in your career, freshman year, kind of trying to figure out your way as both a position player and a hitter and also on the pitcher's mound. But then sophomore year, junior year, you play some summer ball, you go to the Cape League and blow up between your sophomore year and junior seasons, and then you switch to the mound full time. When you look back on your 3 years of school, let's go back to your freshman year at Lemoyne. If you were to talk to yourself back then and say, not only are you going to be drafted, but over the next 2 years, you're going to do enough to end up as a second-round pick, what would that freshman version of Josiah Gray have said at that point?
It's a great question. He would say you're crazy because my freshman year, it was a really tough time on the mound for me. I think just because that transition from high school to college is something that a lot of guys, you don't really know how to prepare yourself for that. So for me, I was going out there and I was getting hit around a little bit, and that was different for me because in high school I was a really good pitcher. Albeit not throwing too hard, but I was still getting guys out. So getting up to college and, getting hit around a little bit definitely was like a really shocking experience and made me want to just get better. Because I remember my freshman year, in the NE10, we always have a play-in game for the championship weekend. So that Tuesday game always leads into the weekend. So I came in for the last couple innings in that Tuesday game, really close game. I ended up giving up the game-winning run, and that sat with me. And really, being I think it was 18 years old at the time, made me want to just get better. And I remember my coaches told me, like, "Hey, don't let this culminate your career. You're going to be a lot better than this, and you're going to come back from this." And safe to say, I did the next 2 years. But that's one of the moments my freshman year that definitely sits with me and kind of propelled me to want to get better on the mound and, become a better baseball player in general.
Your sophomore year, you put up an ERA of 0.63. You convert 10 saves. You throw 14 and a third. And I saw an interview you did in spring training where you talked about how you'd basically go out and play short 7 or 8 innings and then just get asked, all right, go warm up real quick and come in and close out this game. What was, from the practice and preparation standpoint, I mean, how much time on a day-to-day basis you're going out and obviously you're taking ground balls and taking BP and all that. How do you balance that with, oh, by the way, you're also our closer? Like, how did you mix all of that and trying to be the best that you could at all of that stuff and being really successful at it by your sophomore year?
Yeah, sophomore year was definitely a different year because of being the starting shortstop and closer for our team. So my practices honestly would be, I would get to practice, I would go hit, I would go field ground balls, make sure I'm okay on those areas for the day, and I would touch the mound just a little bit, throw just to make sure the arm is loose and I can feel the slope of the mound and everything again. But, my sophomore year was really more focused on the hitting aspect, and pitching was kind of second to the hitting aspect just because of I knew the most important role for me at the time was going out and playing 9 innings of a good shortstop and putting up good at-bats for the team. And then also, if we were in a winning position, to go out there and be able to throw strikes and get us 3 outs so we can win the ball game. So, it was kind of like, yeah, I really love to pitch, but I also got to make sure I'm ready for shortstop. And it was just interesting to look back on that and kind of see how it's all made me the player I am today.
Yeah, and when we look at what the modern game is, we've talked about this in the past on the show of the new two-way designation that's coming to the majors. Obviously, Shohei Ohtani is the poster boy for that. Brendan McKay. There are a couple other guys who maybe are able to do that. As somebody who's done that at a lower level at college but still performed it week in and week out, what do you feel like is the feasibility of a two-way player going forward at the upper levels, at the majors, or just the future of baseball in general?
I think it could add an exciting element to the game of baseball because we always think of that kid that can go out there and chuck, kind of like high school, you can go out there and chuck 6-7 innings and go 2 for 4 at the box. And, that's the exciting part of the game because you get to see him a lot more and he gets to impact the game a lot more. So I think if that can be replicated at the pro ball level and the major league level, like we're seeing with Ohtani and McKay, then I have no interference with it because I think it would just continue to bring excitement for the game and get a lot more guys opportunities to impact the game, whether it be on the mound or with the bat. But I think it's something that a lot of organizations are probably going to be working on for the future just because there's a lot of guys that can offer a lot in both and not just be keyhole to one thing.
And reviewing your Twitter account the last couple of weeks, it seems like you were somebody who watched The Last Dance, just like a lot of the country. You even retweeted something about Michael Jordan hitting 200 in Double-A baseball after not playing for 14 years is insane. You were a guy who hit not too long ago. You've also seen Double-A in last year in Tulsa. What do you think you could hit, even as somebody who didn't take a 14-year pause from the game? What do you think you could hit in Double-A right now?
I will say if I hit 226 in Division II baseball, I don't think I'd do too hot in Double-A. So I would say 180 with about 2 home runs.
All right, there you go.
Hey, that's 180 better than both me and Sam combined would be able to hit. So that's nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah, and 2 more home runs for sure than us combined. But one thing I wanted to touch on too, since we're talking about two-way player, but one of the reasons why you have stuck as a pitcher is because of your fastball. Every scouting report I've read about you brings it up, and one thing that always stands out is the movement you have with that pitch. What is developed with that to make it such a weapon for you? Because fastballs usually they're just establishing pitches for guys, but for you with that movement, it's a really good out pitch as well. Take us through that, where that was when you were first drafted to where it is today.
Just comparing it between 2 periods, honestly, I've just started to learn more with all the data that's thrown at us, and learning how I'm unique as a pitcher because, I'm a shorter guy. So everything I throw is going to be a little bit more deceptive to the hitter just because the release point is going to be a little bit lower. And, just learning, continuing to learn and know that while, hitters hit fastballs the hardest, it's something I can throw more just because of the movement I get. The vertical break or the horizontal break they talk about is a little bit more than average as compared to, a standard pitcher. And also with the height difference, that also plays into it. So, they always told me from spring training last year on, just, hey, this is what your fastball does. Continue to use it. Know it's a really good pitch. Know it's going to take you a long way. That doesn't mean discount the other stuff, but that also means kind of just enjoy that and understand it and make sure that you're ready and you have this pitch kind of know that it's a really good pitch and it's going to take you a long way.
Josiah, one of the kind of crazy things, you get drafted by the Reds, you go out and have a fantastic debut season in that organization with Greenville, a 2.58 ERA in the Appy League in 12 starts, but you didn't go to a spring training with the Reds. You're traded following that season, and you end up in the Dodgers organization by the start of 2019, and especially to be such a highly touted guy and a guy who had so much success in your debut season, to be traded so quickly, was that weird? I mean, how did that feel to you when that happened? Sam and I always ask this question of prospects who have been traded because it's very unlikely that anyone in any normal job will walk in one day to, working at the UPS store and it's like, okay, we traded you and now you work in Buffalo, New York. Like, it doesn't really happen to the rest of us. What was that like for you?
I think that was actually a really surreal experience just because of how it all happened and how quickly it happened, and also not thinking it would happen. It was really something that you don't think of when you get drafted, that you're going to be traded 6 months later. I honestly didn't think guys could be traded that early, but, it's part of the business and it's something that guys have to understand. So it took me a little bit to understand that and really think about the ramifications of the trade and what each side was getting. But I'm really grateful that the Reds drafted me where they did and took a chance on me, and I'm glad I got to perform in my rookie season to, for the Dodgers to want to take me in that trade. So it's still been crazy thinking about it, how 2 years ago I was in at Lemoyne College and playing Division II ball, and now here I am, a top prospect within the Dodgers organization. And to say the least, it's been a crazy 2 years with the trade and everything going on. But I wouldn't want it to go any other way.
It's such weird timing, too, because if you were a guy who was 5 years into your career, there's a little bit more normalcy, I would imagine, with the professional calendar. But you get traded in December, and so you go through a 6-month period in the Reds organization. Then you're traded in December. How does a new organization communicate with you and kind of get you into the fold? Because it's not like you're, the middle of a season, you're going into a new clubhouse, your teammates. Like, I would think there's probably some anxiety or some awkwardness with, like, you've been employed by a new organization for 2 months before you really get to meet anybody or be part of that. How did that all go down?
Yeah, it was definitely anxious just because of being drafted by the Reds. I'm already going out there anxious, not knowing anybody with my whole 2018 draft class. And then 6 months later, it's kind of like I'm a part of the Dodgers 2018 draft class, but I'm really not because, they didn't sign me. So it was definitely like I had to meet 2 new groups of people within that draft class and also meet a whole new front office, meet a whole new player development staff. So going into that spring training was definitely a lot of things thrown at me to where I had to remember names really quickly. I had to understand this is how this is ran, this is what this is. And even I had a couple buddies in the organization at the time, and they told me, they kind of guided me the first couple of weeks. But even then, that still made me kind of like realize, like, I'm really like the newest guy here because I wasn't drafted with these guys. I was just traded here. But, they welcomed me with open arms, and I received a lot of calls that week after that trade just to let me know that I'm welcome and they're excited to have me and they couldn't wait to meet me and, kind of start working with me. So it was a really anxious time, and it's still crazy because, I'm still meeting new people and getting around new groups, but it's something that's a part of the game and that we probably all have to go through at some time.
And since you've joined the Dodgers, the Dodgers continue to have one of the deepest minor league systems in baseball right now. You look at the top of the organization between Gavin Lux, Dustin May, yourself, Keibert Ruiz. Jeter Downs was in there for a while and proved his stock enough to get traded a second time. What about being in the Dodgers organization has allowed your game to take the next step? What's something they've worked on with you specifically that you feel like's rounded out your profile?
Yeah, everyone knows this organization is top-notch, probably the best organization in baseball. And I think they do a great job in just getting the most out of you, no matter if you're a first-rounder or a 40th rounder. And I say that to a lot of guys, but, I really mean it by saying they're going to put as much in for you as they will the next guy. And it's kind of all up to you to run with it and use all the things given to you to try and become the best baseball player you can be. And I think with seeing the success with the guys at the big league level, Gavin Lux, Dustin May, Gonsolin, and so on, year by year, really reinforces what they're doing at the minor league level because it might not be the easiest route to the big leagues, but when you get there and you're cemented there, you're going to have success because you've grinded and you've dealt with a lot of other things that guys in other organizations that might be a little thinner at the big league level might not have had to deal with, but you've gone through that and you've improved to the level that you can make it to the big leagues with this club. So just knowing that and understanding that is part of the process here. But I think everyone knows that the player development over here is second to none, and they do the most for guys no matter who you are and where you come from.
And speaking of it being such a loaded system, a lot of that prospect talent is up near the top, and obviously the major league roster is loaded as well. But one thing we keep hearing as we potentially get closer to baseball here is the roster situation. It could inflate to as many as 30 players on the active roster and then a taxi squad of maybe 20 more beyond that. How much are you paying attention to that news, and being somebody who was a non-roster invite in the spring and potentially another non-roster invite to spring training too, how much are you trying to envision yourself and where you could fit under these new potential rules?
Yeah, I'm following it just as close as anyone else in my shoes. I want to be a part of whatever these new plans are, whether it be non-roster or taxi squad or whatever it be. I want to be thrown into the mix with those guys. So that's kind of to the point where now my preparation gets me in the door to whatever those situations may be. So I'm following it just as closely because I want to be there. And I think continuing to put the work in and showing that I deserve to be there will kind of force their hand to make the want me put there. So I'm going to keep working, and hopefully we hear some good news and we get some agreements, and then we get that roster starting to format itself, and hopefully I'm included in there.
Josiah, a couple more for you. We'll get you out of here. You gave a really good interview in spring training talking about just, kind of your background and growing up and being somebody at this stage of your career. And you were asked about who you look up to in baseball. One of the guys you pointed out is Marcus Stroman, who, whether you are a Blue Jays fan or somebody who maybe wasn't the tallest person growing up or whatever it is, there are a lot of reasons to love Marcus Stroman. And you pointed out that you wanted to kind of work alongside his career to show that African-American pitchers can have long and really good and really productive careers in baseball, and that he's been kind of inspiring to you in that way. What does it mean to you knowing that, you're 22, you're a Double-A last year, this year potentially when we get baseball back or next year, you could be embarking on a lengthy and very good big league career. You get to be that guy for kids who are coming up young African-American players, and there's been so much discussion of that in baseball in recent years, of how to get that community back into the numbers that it was in baseball a couple of decades ago. What does that mean now that you are sort of on the doorstep of maybe being one of those guys for kids who are coming up playing games?
I think that means the world to me, just because of knowing my situation and then knowing that African-American kids aren't playing baseball as much as they used to. And knowing my love for the game and how much this game has meant to me throughout my childhood and the times now, I know that this is a game that a lot of other kids can enjoy. So I just want to continue to grow the game as much as I can. And I think Marcus has done a great job with that, with having those teams in New York and building a brand and building an apparel line, just sort of trying to make sure that kids that are like him, or kids that are not as tall as him, can have an opportunity and have something to root for in their career. So I think having all of that, and also knowing that kids that look like me have a chance and they can enjoy this game just as much as I have, makes my life kind of have purpose outside of what I'm doing on the mound. So that's something I really want to just continue to focus on, and make sure that I can be a role model for these kids in the next generation, whether I have a 1-year career or a 10-year career. I want to make sure that these kids have someone they can look up to, and it can be a guy like Hope. Wow, this can be us, Division II kid, but now I can become a viable major leaguer. And kind of just those sort of things are something I want to give kids a sort of piece of hope, so they know that they can continue to work, and hopefully their dreams will come true and they can continue to do the things that they want to do in this game.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and when you talk about that stuff with Stroman, when you do have kids look up to you, whether it is just being short or whether it is being your road, what would you hope is the one thing they kind of latch onto, or many things? I mean,
Not that we're saying you're short, by the way, because you're 6'1", and if you're short, then I'm short, and I don't think I'm that short.
Right, yeah. Short for a pitcher, but not short for all of us out here. But what aspect of your game or your style or any part of what makes you a role model would you hope to pass down to kids who are watching you, wherever that is, Texas League, PCL, major leagues?
I think just my whole story can be something that people can look up to, like knowing that wherever you come from, as long as you continue to work hard and get in front of the right people and continue to not leave any stone unturned and continue to just honestly grind every day, then things can happen for you. Like for me, going into my college career at Lemoyne, I had no idea I would be playing professional baseball and be a top prospect and all these other things that have happened for me. I just wanted to go out there and play college baseball. And I wanted to play professional baseball, but didn't know how, didn't really know what tool I had to offer to a professional team. And then kind of just reinforcing my ability to want to work hard and continue to get better every day. Things started forming for me ever so quickly, and here I am now. So I just want people to know that, like, wherever you may be right now, that can all change within 2 to 3 years, as long as you continue to work and continue to grind every day and build that good base, because people are going to be watching and they're going to want to give you a shot, and all you need is one shot, and just roll with it and make your dreams come true.
Awesome. Well, we'll end on two fun ones. Josiah, Tyler brought up before that we were going to need to get some streaming recs from you. I won't necessarily ask for that quite yet, but one thing I want to address is last night, or 2 nights ago rather, you tweeted out that Uncut Gems didn't just disappoint. I think anybody who's seen that movie knows how awesome it is, especially with the sports connection.
So that's good to know, because I really
there you go.
Just added it to my list.
There you go. But here's my actual question is, it's one of the most stressful movies I've ever watched in my life for many reasons, and I won't spoil anything. But on the mound, as an athlete, as a pitcher, as a human being, but we'll focus on baseball. What's like the baseball moment that's akin to what Howard Ratner has to go through in that entire movie? What would you compare it to as a professional pitcher?
Man, I would say the biggest moment I've been in yet that kind of made me feel as anxious and kind of like a little pit in my stomach was starting game 1 of the Texas League Championship Series this past year. That was in front of, I don't know how many fans in Amarillo, but that was really something I've never experienced before. And kind of, I can relate that to what he was feeling in the movie, because that movie was just every moment kind of like just shaped the next moment. So relating that back to the championship series is something that I can kind of relate to, in that like pit in your stomach and knowing that every pitch is the biggest pitch and you want to get as many outs as you can as quick as possible. Just, I would say those two kind of compare, and it's crazy. It's all crazy.
No, for sure. And that makes a lot of sense to me. And that kind of rolls into what the final question I have is, and this is something we've been asking so many guys, the last couple of weeks, as minor league baseball is on hold and we don't know when it will come back. I'll ask you the same thing. What is your favorite minor league memory so far through your 2 years of your career?
Man, I would say I have a lot, but I'll throw it back to Tulsa again. When we clinched to go to the championship series, we beat a really, really good Arkansas team with, honestly, they'll have 9+ big leaguers on that team eventually. We went into that series, and that whole year, the guys were telling me that Arkansas would beat them up, and we took them to 5 games and ended up winning on our home field a day game, and really hard fought battle. And you could tell that both teams were really fighting tooth and nail to win this game. But once we won that game and clinched that to go to the championship series, that really was like, wow, kind of like, this is what it feels like to win. And I mean, it is AA baseball, but you try to enjoy it as much as you can. And that was probably the best moment in recent memory, because of, we had a lot of guys from that started in Rancho and made it to Tulsa at the end of the year. I know I started in Great Lakes, made it to Tulsa. So you had a lot of guys that didn't start the year with the Tulsa team, but, they're all really important pieces to clinching that championship series. So that really is a really memorable moment for me. I wish we would have pulled it out against Amarillo there in Game 5, but, that was something I'll never forget because of how crazy and how tightly knit we were in trying to win all those games.
That is awesome. Josiah Gray is the third-ranked prospect in the Los Angeles Dodgers organization in baseball's number 67 overall in the top 100 coming into 2020, and a guy who we very much hope to be seeing on a mound sometime soon. And Josiah, we kept you for so long, and we can't thank you enough for taking all the time, man. This has been outstanding, and best of luck staying relatively cool. I know you said before we started recording it's going to be like 107 there this week in Arizona, so don't melt, and we'll see you on a mound sometime soon, man. Thanks for the time.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me.
Which Copa La Diversión hat is the best? Now is your chance to crown the champion of all 92 Copa Caps via the Greatest Gorra Tournament, presented by Echo Outdoor Power Equipment. The recently launched campaign provides you, the fan, a chance to win exclusive prizes from Echo and select official on-field Copa hats while celebrating the cultural contributions of Hispanic communities through culturally relevant on-field identities. Be sure to join in the fun and vote at MLB.com/contests.
Checking in with Benjamin Hill on this week's episode of the Show Before the Show. There is a new edition of Did You Know Facts about a league in the minors, and there's some really good ones. It's about the Southern League. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But Ben, how you doing, first off?
Hey, I'm doing pretty well, Tyler. Thank you. I'm, routines develop no matter what the circumstances. And every time I talk to you guys, I'm in my bedroom, and not only in my bedroom, I'm staring out the window. And I can report that it's a beautiful day in Ditmas Park, Brooklyn. as I stare towards Cortelyou Road. I'm between. Well, okay, I'll leave my address at that. I don't want any stalking. I was going to give the cross streets and everything, but I'll save that for another time.
Yeah, we don't need people flocking to your address, Ben. This is a time of social distancing. We don't need that.
Right, good point. I a couple months ago, I was listening to an old Brooklyn Dodgers broadcast. We may have even discussed this in this segment at one point, but I was listening to an old Brooklyn Dodgers broadcast on YouTube, and Vin Scully welcomed some people to the ballpark and then just gave their address over the radio. It was like it was a game from 1953. It was like this family from blah 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 Atlantic Avenue, and I was like, the whole address you give out on the radio? I feel like you get sued for that now.
It was a different time,
Very
that
different
is,
time.
not to go too far on a tangent. I recently read a book of by Ernie Pyle, who was a prominent World War II era reporter.
Yeah.
And he embedded with the troops. And throughout this book, and a lot of it's collected from the newspaper writing, he'd mention his conversations with various troops and be like, George Jensen from Indianapolis, says hello to his parents at 247 7th Avenue. And then throughout the whole book, it was just giving people addresses. And I just think it was a different thing then.
Fascinating.
I guess a more open time, yeah. Now we're too closed off. We don't share our addresses. Let's start a movement where we just tell everyone where we live all the time.
Post our addresses all the time.
You go first, Ben, and then I will happily follow.
Oh, man. Well, there's a new edition of League Fun Facts up on the site right now. Southern League is up this week from Ben, which is Ben's been rolling through all of the minor league circuits. And the Southern League, one fact about each team, there are a couple in here that are my favorites, but one that I did not know about at all, which is the Pensacola Blue Wahoos. Their ballpark looks over Pensacola Bay. It's one of the most beautiful backdrops in minor league baseball, but it also evidently is home to a giant cargo ship that has a really interesting story behind it. I had no idea about this story.
Yeah, I think I'd known it, and then I forgot. But, I'm doing these stories every week, starting AAA, now working my way through AA. So on Twitter, I kind of try to give people a heads up. Hey, here's one coming next. And on Twitter, I said, hey, Southern League facts, if anyone wants to suggest one. And the Blue Wahoos on their team account got in touch with me and said, hey, that we the gigantic cargo ship in the Pensacola Bay, right behind our ballpark. It's owned by a company owned by Jeff Bezos, the richest man in the world. And it will eventually be used to not for the launch. These rockets will be launched from Cape Canaveral, but this cargo ship that you can see from the Blue Wahoos ballpark will be used for the landing in some way. I'm not too into aerospace, but
it's
pretty
the company
strange ballpark backdrop.
Blue Origin, which is like his space exploration company, because Jeff Bezos is the closest thing we have to like an actual weird movie bajillionaire who does things like own space exploration companies. But yeah, Blue Origin owns the company. They will launch rockets from Cape Canaveral, and then they will land them, or at least attempt to land them, on this ship that is like neighbors with Blue Wahoo's ballpark.
Yeah, I think when they do land these rockets,
it won't be right there.
The ship will have sailed to.
Presumably, it will be somewhere else.
Yeah, probably it won't be just mere, visible from a AA baseball stadium. Although that would be kind of cool, if maybe a little dangerous.
And Ben, you have one of my favorite ones in here as well. Of all the fun facts you've thrown out there about any league so far, basically just because it's a technicality. We talked about this with Josiah Gray last segment. Everybody's been watching The Last Dance. Everybody knows the episode or just the year in which Michael Jordan played AA baseball. But you're here to tell us that Michael Jordan never played in Birmingham. Please explain.
Yeah. When it came time to choose a Birmingham fact, I, of course, thought of Michael Jordan, member of the 1994 Barons. I did not watch The Last Dance, but I'm on Twitter, and I know so many other people watched it. I know you guys watched it. And so I was like, I got to come up with a Michael Jordan fact, but something that isn't too obvious since Michael Jordan's on the brain. And I was just kind of thinking, okay, what ballpark did he play at? And I was like, oh, right. He played at Hoover Metropolitan Stadium. And what was that ballpark? It was located not in Birmingham, but in the nearby suburb of Hoover, Alabama. So the fact is, if you want to win a bet on a technicality or just be one of those know-it-all jerks who knows a little more than everyone else, Michael Jordan never played a baseball game in Birmingham. He played all his games with the Barons in Hoover, Alabama.
And one other one you throw in here too is obviously this was supposed to be the inaugural season of the Rocket City Trash Pandas, and the Trash Pandas joining the Southern League, moving from Mobile being the Bay Bears. But you throw in a Bay Bears fact here. Just in general, how are you going to remember the Mobile Bay Bears and their history at Hank Aaron Stadium?
Well, in the story, I put in a fact about how they had the Mobile Bay Bears for 22 years. Their entire history had the same bat boy, the legendary Wade Vatican. But if the question is how I will remember the Mobile Bay Bears, for me, I will always have a very distinct Mobile Bay Bears memory, and that's that my first ever legit, I'm finally a full-time writer for MILB.com. My first ever trip, my first ever on-the-road assignment, the visit that launched everything for me. Oh man, I'm just getting anxiety thinking about it. But it was the opening of the Hank Aaron Childhood Home and Museum for the Mobile Bay Bears home opener in 2010. And, Hank Aaron grew up in Mobile, so the Bay Bears, who play in Hank Aaron Stadium, had actually taken Hank Aaron's childhood home, relocated it to the grounds of the ballpark, refurbished it, and opened it as a museum on the grounds of the ballpark. And so they had, for this home opener, to open the Hank Aaron Childhood Home and Museum, Hank Aaron was there. Bud Selig, who was the commissioner at the time, was there. Bob Feller was there. Ozzie Smith was there. Willie Mays was there. Bruce Sutter was there. Ricky Henderson was there. And I was the only national reporter, and I just had a flip cam and didn't know what I was doing. And it was just insane, and it was the first time I ever did anything on the road. And so that's my Mobile Bay Bears memory. And oh my goodness, I was so nervous. I had no idea what I was doing. But I interviewed Ricky Henderson. I tried to interview Reggie Jackson, and he put his hand on my flip cam and pushed it away. And at the time I was pissed, and I was like, man, what a jerk. But I think it's better to have a Reggie Jackson was a jerk to me story, because, that's very on brand for Reggie Jackson. I got to be on the same airplane with Ricky Henderson. I didn't sit near him, but I remember just being like, my goodness, I'm on the same airplane with Ricky Henderson right now. If this plane goes down, it's going to get national coverage because Ricky Henderson's on it. So.
Oh, man. There's some really good facts in the story that are up on the site right now. Ben's got another piece coming to the site. We've been talking for the last few weeks about teams that are really trying to get creative to stay engaged with their fans, and obviously we're living in a situation where states and different localities are operating under different circumstances and such. But ballparks across the country are at least partially opening from the standpoint of to-go food and movie nights and all that kind of stuff. And you've got a story on Daytona coming up in this vein, correct?
Yeah, that's kind of my job right now, is doing some look-back articles, fun facts and that kind of thing. But I'm also trying to just cover what teams are doing during these weird times. And last week I did a roundup article of the sort of things the teams are starting to plan. And this week I'm just focusing on one of those things because it was, up to this point, it's the biggest event that's been held at a minor league stadium this year. The Daytona Tortugas held a movie night at the Jack being their home of Jackie Robinson Ballpark. And they created all these 10 by 10 socially distanced seating areas on the field. Ended up with a little over 600 people in the ballpark spread out on the field, socially distanced, and they watched the movie 42, which is a good choice for a movie to watch in a minor league baseball stadium, but it's a very obvious and good choice for the Tortugas because they play at Jackie Robinson Ballpark, and the ballpark was named for Jackie Robinson because he spent 1946 spring training in Daytona Beach. And there's some scenes in that movie that take place in Daytona, so pretty cool to be on the field at Jackie Robinson Ballpark watching the movie 42 and watching, specifically scenes taking place in Daytona Beach, when you're in the ballpark in Daytona that's named after him, full circle, very meta, but very cool thing. And it was just cool talking to the team and just kind of figuring out how they did it, because guaranteed, obviously, we're going to see the Tortugas will do more movie nights, but as restrictions start to loosen and there's no minor league baseball being played, teams are right now just thinking about we produce events. That's kind of what they do even when there is baseball. They produce events around the baseball game, but now it's just the events themselves. So teams really have to start thinking about how they can get fans into the ballpark in a safe way. And a quote-unquote socially distanced movie night is a good example, and I'm sure we'll see more of them.
And Ben, we'll end on a little bit of a somber note, but you kind of reported this week that Bluefield superfan Henry Belcher had passed away. When you got to go to Bluefield as part of your tour through the Appy League, it was pretty clear that Henry was maybe one of the most vocal minor league fans I've ever seen, and one of the most entertaining with the way he just ribs umpires and all that. But what do you remember about Henry Belcher from your time meeting him, and what can you share about him?
Yeah, when I go on these ballpark road trips, it's really important to me to cover the fans, the longtime fans, especially in small environments like the Appalachian League and, Bluefield Blue Jays, small ballpark, classic ballpark, Bowen Field. And before I even got there, people said to me, "Oh, you've got to talk to Henry Belcher," because anyone who'd been to a Bluefield game knew Henry Belcher. He was this guy who sat alone in the stands and just yelled the whole game. And, he's a Bluefield boy, born and raised. And there's an article that came out in the Bluefield Daily Telegraph today, and it talked about how it talked about the Bluefield Blue Jays front office saying that, Henry Belcher lived for baseball, and kind of feeling sad that, he died at a time when there was no baseball. And, who knows if those two things are connected, but, just one of those super fans in a small town who was always at the ballpark. He was called Double Out Belcher, Henry Double Out Belcher, because that was his unique name for a double play. He would want the Bluefield team to turn a double out, a double play. He yelled at the umpires throughout the game. And if you went to a game, you were going to hear his voice. So just one of those iconic characters in an iconic league, in an iconic ballpark, the Appalachian League, the Bluefield Blue Jays, the type of person who, when they're gone, you're not going to quite see fans like that going forward. So I think it's good to take a moment and remember the guys like Henry Belcher. And I was sad to see him go. You can, on Twitter, I've reposted the story I wrote about him in 2016, or just Google Henry Double Out Belcher, Bluefield Blue Jays.
And all of that stuff up on the site and up on Twitter right now as Benjamin Hill, another week with some great stuff for us at MILB.com. And stay safe and stay healthy, man. And we'll hopefully not post your address anywhere, but we'll talk to you next week. If you do have legions of fans outside, let us know what they think.
I will. And if everyone wants to, well, no, okay. I say things I'll probably regret. I'll just say, just hit me up on Twitter or email. Don't come to my apartment. But I appreciate everyone who engages with my work, and I really do appreciate it. And eventually I'll get out of this apartment, and we'll get out of our apartments, and we will go live, laugh, and love together in the world at large.
We will. I like that idea. Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, guys.
Our minor league baseball writer spotlight this week, we find Andrew Battifarano, who we welcome back to the show. What's going on, buddy? How are you?
Doing all right. Thanks for having me again. It's always fun talking to you guys.
This is a great story that is up on the site right now about a two-sport athlete who most people are not probably aware of as a two-sport athlete. And it turns out not just two sports, but NHL Hall of Famer and legend Doug Harvey, it seems from reading Andrew's story, played like every sport that man has ever invented and was really good at all of them, and then happened to be just like one of the greatest players in NHL history. This is a pretty awesome story that you came up with for the site.
Yeah, kind of, for the younger listeners, kind of reminds me of Vince from Recess, where he could just pick up anything and just play it and just be awesome at it. But, yeah, funny enough, Darren, one of our editors, was reading a book about Scotty Bowman, and funny enough, there's a tidbit about Doug Harvey playing minor league baseball, and then we did some digging into it. It's like, wow, he was really good for the brief time that he played. Seems like it would be worth writing about, and it was just one of those just kind of coincidences, and we looked into it a little bit more.
So let's talk about Doug Harvey. Obviously, an NHL Hall of Famer, a legend with the Montreal Canadiens, played for a lot of different teams: the New York Rangers, St. Louis Blues, the Detroit Red Wings. But now passed away at 65 years old. Now is looked back on as being just that guy, that great hockey player, inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame in 1973, but did play minor league baseball and was a guy who really, it seems like if he decided, no, I want to go the baseball route, probably would have been a very good big leaguer as well. Give us kind of the genesis of his baseball career going along with being a phenom in hockey.
Yeah, kind of an interesting story because he had grown up playing fast pitch from what I read, so it's, more softball, but he was really good. Catches the eye of the owner of the Ottawa Nationals, later Senators, not the hockey team, but the Border League team, and kind of joins in. But this is right around the same time that he's starting his Montreal Canadiens career. So he was kind of playing both at the same time and had to work around, the camps at the end of September, October from baseball season. And obviously if the, Canadians made it to the playoffs, kind of interfering with the beginning of baseball season. So he was able for, those 4 years and 2 full seasons really to kind of work around the beginning of what became one of the best NHL careers of all time and have a really good baseball career out of it. It's just, I don't know if playing these 2 particular sports would happen today at a professional level. It's tough to say.
And one of my favorite things about this story that you bring up is when he was first coming up, he used to hold his hands 6 inches apart on the bat and was still a career .344 hitter. He eventually moved to putting them together to develop power and went from 4 homers to 14 homers. Obviously, it worked out. But, talk to us about what you found out about what he was like as a hitter and why he was able to be so successful, something carrying from the blue line essentially to the baseball diamond.
Yeah, that was also one of my favorite tidbits, reading through a profile on him in a Canadian magazine, just about how he changed his whole bat. Like, I'm imagining kind of like a Ty Cobb style where he has his hands so far apart, but then he puts it together. And I think to your question about just why he was so good at hitting in general, I think when I talked to Scotty Bowman, he talked about Doug's eye-hand coordination. It was just kind of this next level thing that he had, that he was able to do, whether it was baseball, hockey, or golf. He talks about this time they went golfing one off season and he, did better than 100. And for someone who doesn't play golf full time, that's just pretty impressive. So who knows, maybe he could have golfed full time and done amazing at that as well. But I think it's just a lot with that kind of just great eye-hand coordination that he was able to, do so well against professional pitching.
You slipped in there that you got to talk to Scotty Bowman, who is a legend beyond legend in the game of hockey, is the winningest head coach in NHL history. He's won 14 Stanley Cups as a player, a coach, and an executive. And it seemed like we were talking before we started recording that getting in touch with him, he seemed really excited to get a chance to talk about Doug Harvey. What was that experience like, talking this story through with Scotty Bowman?
Yeah, he was a very interesting guy to talk to, one of the, nicer guys I've ever really had an experience talking to. He just genuinely loved talking about Doug Harvey and, hockey in general. He had all these really great stories about him, obviously mostly, about their time in hockey together. But he just had all these great things that he remembered. And he always would go back. Yeah, I didn't really know much about his baseball career, but then he was like, I think he played in the Border League from 46 to 50, and I was like, yeah, that's spot on. I'm impressed that you know that for a guy, you didn't you didn't really follow his baseball career super closely. He just seemed to know every little detail about everything, and just looking back at it, it's wow, for a guy that's in his 80s, just knows everything about everything. He's an encyclopedia of knowledge, and it was just really cool to pick his brain about one of the more fascinating athletes, of the last 100 years.
And you keep bringing up the Border League. That's obviously the league he played in for Ottawa, at the time known as Class C. How would you kind of define what the competition level of the Border League, a Class C league, is? Is there maybe a modern equivalent in your research that you could think of?
Based on what I was reading, it's definitely a little bit on the lower end. I guess it would kind of be closer to what we know as Class A now. That's my guess. Obviously, I didn't see I couldn't see any video or anything of what the competition level was like, but just based on what I read, that's kind of what I was reading. because those professional teams like the Red Sox and the Braves and things, the Cardinals were the other ones that did offer him professional contracts. It seemed like they wanted him to go to the AAA level. So my guess is that it was more toward that, like, Class A level of play, which is, for a guy that wasn't, just playing baseball his whole time, he had another sport where he was fantastic at and probably devoting more time to that. I think that's still impressive.
Yeah, and let's say Doug Harvey, this is going to be tough to say about a guy who's a native Canadian and a native of Montreal, but let's say he had never seen a pond before, never skated up, only knew baseball. Given what his resume was, and like you mentioned, getting offers from the Braves, the Cardinals, and the Red Sox, do you think he could have been a major leaguer?
Hard for me to say, just never having seen the guy play in person. But based on what I've read and, talking to Scotty Ballman and just different things that I saw, I think he would have had a legitimate chance. Just a guy that had so much talent in a lot of different areas and had that kind of eye-hand coordination to take him to that level of the NHL and for him to hit so well in the minor leagues. I think he would at least have a fighting chance to be able to do it. Hard for me to definitively say, like, yes, he would have been a successful major leaguer, would have been a Hall of Famer, but based on all accounts, if there were a number of teams looking for him, I think the potential was obviously there.
Pretty great stuff. Pretty amazing story. Doug Harvey is kind of the reverse Tom Glavine, if you will. The story is up on the site right now at MILB.com. Andrew Battifarano, you can find on the tweets at Andrew at Bat with an extra T at the end. And good to talk to you again, man. Great stuff as always.
Thanks again. I appreciate it as always.
Minor League Baseball and Feeding America have teamed up to raise funds for local food banks and to honor those risking their lives on the front lines of the COVID-19 pandemic. For every $10 donated to Feeding America, a minor league baseball team will donate one ticket to a local hero. May 31st is the last day to donate, so head to MILB.com/community-first to donate today and help us make a difference in our local communities. Final segment of this week's episode of the show before the show. Big thanks to Josiah Gray, who you can find on Twitter at JGray with an extra Y and an underscore at the end. Benjamin Hill on Twitter at Ben's Biz. Andrew Battifarano at Andrew at Bat. Great stuff from them as always. And Sam has this week's Prospect Fun Fact presented by Nationwide.
Yeah, so this week's Nationwide Prospect Fun Fact, I held off on mentioning this week's stream at the beginning of the show. I'm not going to hold off now because, I got to take advantage of this as much as I can. For those of you who watched, Evan White came through for me in this battle between AL prospects and NL prospects. Last time we did it was Julio Rodriguez. This time it's another Mariners prospect and Evan White. So I wanted to come at you guys with an Evan White fun fact. As many of you know, Evan White signed a major league deal this offseason. He was going to skip right over AAA, be Seattle's starting first baseman. And this is a big reason why. If you looked at his AA Arkansas numbers last year, you might think, okay, that's a pretty good hitter, but nothing here screams to me is going to be a slugging first baseman in the typical mold of a first baseman. But look at his splits, and you can see why the Mariners are a little bit more excited. In 44 home games at Arkansas, which is a really big pitcher's park in the Texas League, he hit .260 with a .309 on-base percentage and a .408 slugging percentage. That was a .718 OPS. He only had 5 homers. Compared that to his road stats. So he had 5 homers at home. He had 13 on the road. He slugged .408 at home. He slugged .556 on the road. His OPS went from .718 at home to .940 on the road. When you put him in a more neutral place or even in a hitter-friendly place, his numbers take off. And it shows why a lot of evaluators and the Mariners especially think he's going to be more than just a really good defensive first baseman. There is a lot of value in that bat. Whether he's going to be a 30-homer player someday, I don't think we're going to see that. But somebody who can reach base at a good clip, somebody who can put the ball in the gaps, get his home runs, bring some offensive value to match what we've always said is Gold Glove potential at the cold corner. This is a big reason why to be excited about Evan White, and we saw it in that stream the other day when he hit that 2-run homer to put my team ahead and give them the lead. So Evan White, if you ever go to his stats page, just dig a little deeper, dig into those splits, and know on the road in the Texas League last year, he was an elite hitter.
And with that, we'll say goodbye for this week's episode of the Show Before the Show. Thanks for tuning in, hanging out with us. If you've got questions, thoughts, comments, concerns, you can get in touch with the show. Podcast at MILB.com. Sam Dykstra is on Twitter at Sam Dykstra MILB. I am at Tyler Mon. And that's it for Sam. I'm Tyler. We'll talk to you next week.